Hi everyone, this is Benoit from Woodrick, and you're watching Hot Topics in Customer Success, a live cast with hot questions and even other wings. This is a show for customer success leaders by customer success leaders, and every week we invite a new customer success leader to partake in a hot sauce challenge while they're sharing their insights on how to create higher level of customer success. And today joining us is Scott Massey, previously at Pantheon Systems, VP of Customer Success at Pantheon Systems, and now is the CEO of Astrocolossal Consulting. Welcome, Scott, and thank you so much for coming in today and playing the game of this hot sauce challenge. So for the benefit of the audience, we have here a series of hot sauce, mild, or actually medium, medium, hot, extra hot, extra hot, extra hot. And so while I'm asking him questions about how he runs customer success, goal is to cry in front of the camera. And so we even got the milk with us so that in case there is an emergency. Let's start and dive in and taste those hot wings.
All right.
And while you're eating this hot wing, think about the first question I'm going to ask you, which is the music question, is introducing yourself and what you've been up to. But before that, let's dive in.
Okay.
So you can pick.
I'll start with mild. Hopefully, I'll say something smart early in case I'm no longer able to talk when the hot stuff comes.
Okay. I'm a wimp too, so I'll go with and it's just 11 a.m., so I'll go with this one, the mild.
That's good. I can
so
taste
far,
it.
so good. That's Gator Swamp Gas.
Gator Swamp Gas. I'm glad I tasted it before I saw the name.
So tell us about yourself.
Sure. My background is in running support teams for IT managed services for the people that would come out and fix your server in the khakis and Microsoft logo shirts. And I came to San Francisco to start in customer success about 5 years ago, and was working at Pantheon and built their customer success team. They're a big platform as a service for WordPress and Drupal, and I helped build their team, which was mainly to help developers figure out how to use our platform. And in the meantime, I also was really interested in the fundamentals of customer success and how I can make my company better by using them. So I got involved in the customer success meetup and was an organizer there for a few years until last year when I moved back to Tokyo, Japan, which is a country that I just fell in love with and always wanted. I lived there in 2007 and decided to move back, and so I'm starting up a customer success consulting business there as well. So I work in San Francisco a bunch and in Japan a bunch.
And I'm glad you came back from Japan today to speak with us.
Yes.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about at Pantheon how the structure of the team was, or what was your responsibility as the VP of Customer Success at Pantheon, and how did you structure the team?
Sure. When I started there, it was very small, and customer success basically equaled support. So it was one and the same. There was no real differentiation because customer success was even newer back then, so there were a lot of different ideas about it. So the first thing we had to kind of look at was our support structure and our support service delivery. And once we kind of got that under control, we had to look at how to get customers and users onto the platform more smoothly. Mm-hmm. And that's the pretty typical scenario where onboarding is kind of the first customer journey that needs help, where you want to make sure that they emerge successful. So we built an onboarding team.
So they have a chance to become sticky right off the bat.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You don't want their first experience to be a struggle, and so I built an onboarding team, and I did it kind of myself by doing it over and over, then hiring other people who are now much better at it than me, and I sort of backed out the door and took a managerial role there. And then I realized pretty quickly that having documentation on our team made sense for us because it's a pretty complex product, and there's a lot of developers who are pushing it to the edge and working with the API and things like that. So we hired an internal documentation team that reported to me and branched out into training the customers on the platform. So we built those out, and then...
So it's customer support, onboarding, and training and documentation.
Yes, and then the last thing we added were actually customer success managers to kind of oversee the high value customers that were on the elite level and needed kind of a hand-holding process past just onboarding. So we built that out.
And so that might be a little redundant, but you were this first customer success leader at Pantheon, and they've been on a extraordinary growth journey. And what advice would you have to people that are going through this kind of similar growth journey what advice would you have into scaling and building a customer success team? And you kind of gave some nuggets of of answers in the previous questions, but
yeah, I think
if you have additional advice on scaling and customer success team.
I think the most important thing is making sure that customer success is a philosophy that's held in all the different departments. And if you rename support into customer success and don't give them tools to help them succeed and give them ways to bring their feedback, like they're doing more customer interacting than anyone else using your product. So what they have to say is pretty important inside the customer success team. If they don't have a way to get that to product effectively, if they don't have a way to give sales feedback about maybe any differences in how the product is being sold versus what it actually is, like without that kind of clear kind of process, it can be a very frustrating job in customer success. So I think making sure everyone understands what customer success is, that it's not just support, and making sure that everyone buys into the fact that customer success people themselves may become product experts, but that's not the only tool that they need in their arsenal. They need to be able to get feedback to make the product better, to where ideally support and customer success's role gets easier and easier because more challenging customers are going to come and larger amounts of customers are going to come, and there's always going to be new problems. So being able to solve problems as you go with the feedback you get from customer success is super important.
So let's go and dig into.
I was hoping I could talk my way through 3 or 4 sauces.
And I already need some milk, like at the beginning. So that's the
black rose hot
black
sauce.
Rose.
Okay.
And it starts to be spicy.
I'm just gonna
depending on your tolerance for spices. So it did not kick in right away. It's more like a few minutes in you talking. So I was like, maybe I should go and reach for some milk. Actually, I'm going to do it. I'm cheating.
Okay. So far, so good.
Okay.
I think.
So actually, it's a good segue to the next question is, you mentioned it, the customer success team has probably the most interaction with the customer within the organization. And so they get a wealth of customer insight, customer feedback. They know the product inside and out. And how do you disseminate? Do you have some process in place? How do you disseminate this voice of the customer across the organization? And which team every team should get access to that data in some ways, but I'm guessing the product team more. So how do you get that voice of the customer in the hands of the people that needed the product, the engineering, and how does it get into the product roadmap or the go-to-market strategy? So any advice for people on how to create that flow of information up the chain across the organization?
So I think that like in customer success, expectations are a common theme about setting good expectations with the customer. I think a lot of that has to happen at the managerial level, making sure that that information is disseminated and actually heard and listened to. So I think it's a good practice for an incoming customer success manager to make that clear, that in order to be in a position to win, and for the company to be in a position to win, that that we need to have these clear feedback loops. And I think things like having an equal seat at the table with product and engineering is super important. And I think also from my own perspective, being able to make a clear case for how customer success affects retention and what retention really means, because in the daily thick of things and as you grow, sales is always going to be there talking about the potential sales that a new feature or something can have. And if customer success doesn't have a similar way to kind of quantify the changes that they want to make, it becomes a harder battle. So I think customer success people can't be so gut driven. Like they have to be able to back up their sentiments with actual data.
Sounds good. Actually, you're always guessing my next question. You talk about data, you talk about quantifying, and my next question is like you and I saw that's something dear to your heart, building a customer success machine, a customer happiness machine. I think that's how you call it. You're a technical guy, so you're thinking about process, metrics, machine, and so how do you monitor that machine? What kind of metrics and output from that machine do you measure? Or what's your philosophy around measuring customer success?
Right.
So
I'm a big fan of balanced scorecards. I think that having a few important metrics from various different locations is pretty valuable. So I think that you want to have more than just customer surveys. You want to have actual usage data. But you don't want to just rely on data, because that doesn't give you the whole picture either. So I think there's, you want to get categorical info that fits in there somewhere. People's survey responses, NPS, customer effort, like whatever you find your users. I think users vary according to the product, of course. So whatever engages your users and where you feel like you're getting real heartfelt info and not just click to get passed through a survey or something like that, you should use. But in addition to that, having the active use data and being able to relate that to when customers came on, if they're using features and how they're using them, because the feature requests are going to come up all the time, and usually in the early stages it's pretty obvious when there's what the next right thing to do is, but gradually the next right thing becomes less and less clear, and to avoid becoming just a feature factory, you want to see how features are being used. So I think that should all kind of tie in. I think that's a great role for customer success, is they can look at all different perspectives and be the aggregator and translator of that into like a real voice of the customer, not just kind of, again, like what my gut tells me.
A lot of our customers are startups, and so if you could start from scratch in terms of technology and putting technology in the hands of your customer success team, what would be your advice again? What do you like? Or in between, you can go very low tech, you can go very high tech. We're in the technology world, we're in San Francisco, so people always are advocates for new technology.
I hear tech is big here.
You're so smart. What's your philosophy again on technology to support the customer success team? The success of the customer success
Yes.
team.
So I think we're talking about human interactions, so I don't think it has to be 100% data driven. I think that understanding your customers and building out initial customer personas, which was a pretty useful experiment that we did in conjunction with marketing, because marketing had experience with that. And a lot of times you think about personas at the top of the funnel, but they go all the way through to the other side of the funnel Is it starting to kick in over there?
Yeah, my throat.
Okay. If you start turning red, I'll assume it's time
for the funnel.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's just move the camera towards me while you have your seizure. So I think building out personas that are rough ideas of rough kind of characteristics of the people who use your product is a good start. And then building out journeys, and I think like onboarding, like I mentioned earlier, is a pretty common journey. Like you can start there, but then there's also moving from freemium to like a paid version, or moving from one plan to another, or using a product the second or third time, or doing your first API integration or something like that, that are other journeys, and you begin to form a matrix of your journeys by user persona, and you begin to figure out like who is doing well and who is struggling, and how to build out better processes or documentation or whatever is the right tool for that specific group that you care about. And I think as you grow, you'll see new personas come on, and you'll see others that sort of wane and stop using the product. And you also can kind of make hard decisions about who might not be the right persona for your product.
Okay. Very nice. So it's a lot of analysis, and you look at the data, obviously, but you're making your hypothesis about all of those. I mean, you see the data, but it's mostly documenting that and sharing that information with the rest of the organization. That's the persona that I see. That's the touch points that we need to improve upon, and help the buyer move inside of the funnel.
Yeah. I think the hypothesis is exactly it. You can always be wrong, but start somewhere.
Okay. What do you see? Next question. So now you have to move up because the questions are getting also hotter and hotter.
Are they? Okay. I can tell. That's different. I can tell.
You're holding well. That's something in the darkness. I can see. Ghost in the darkness. Oh my God.
That's not a ghost pepper, is it?
I don't know. It's some drop of spice just as I'm talking is dripping into my throat. It's been a minute ago that I had it. So, generic question, because you've been, I like it.
I'm going to start, I will be sweating by the end of this.
You changed color. You went from, you're turning a little pink.
Okay. These might turn into yes/no questions shortly.
So, what do you see as the trend, the hot trends, hot questions, hot trends, hot wings into customer success? What's hot these days, and what should customer success professional look forward to?
So I think that there are a lot of good products out there that are taking different kinds of data and helping to build like an overall customer success score. I think that's getting better and better, and I think it's integrating with marketing automation and sales automation, and I think that it's helping to unify kind of all aspects before and after the sale and kind of over the lifetime of the customer. So I think that is getting cooler and cooler. Okay. I've seen that evolve slowly, and I think that like what companies are doing with kind of machine learning and that kind of thing are pretty impressive. I think also journeys, I talk about that a lot because I think those are super important, and I think that journeys are getting more widely adopted, and kind of product is understanding that they're kind of milestones and those aha moments that people want along the way, and sort of it's becoming unified, like what customer success wants, what product wants, and ultimately like kind of what the entire organization wants. I think like I'm seeing how that's developed over time, and that's getting better and better. So yeah.
And so how do you, in your mind, how do you systemize or instrument those journeys? Because you mentioned journeys a lot. Is that just a PowerPoint and and you draw the journey, or is there a way to kind of support those different?
I think you can look at sales as a model, you know, and you can look at marketing and how people discover the product and start to use it and become paying customers as a model for that, because it's a similar kind of journey after the sale too. It's like the sale is, to some users, is irrelevant. Like it's a arbitrary mark where they've decided that they want it, so they're starting to pay for it. They may, if it's a freemium thing, they may have been using it for months or years prior. So you look at it as, like I look at it as a very organic process. And so I think that you know, there's a couple different ways to look at it. You can look at the natural places that support spends their time, or that customer success spends their time. And that's why like onboarding often comes to the top. You could look at where your customers seem to have the most pain and like what they're complaining about. Like, I can't use it, or I'm trying to do this and I can't. And making, you know, an honest assessment about whether it's something that the product needs, or something that this particular persona just needs, like a better doc, or something in a drip campaign that reminds them of how to do something. And so I think that you have to just be close to the product and the customers using it, and you'll kind of be able to start to see patterns, and those patterns are kind of your customer journeys, or a good place to start at least.
Awesome. And so my last question, we haven't eaten those wings, so I'll go and dip into the extra hot.
Let's do it.
Because that's the last question. So my last question would be around, because people watching us are trying to learn more about customer success. And so my last question would be, where do customer success professionals should keep up to date with what's new in customer success, or keep their skills set fresh and keep on the edge of their profession?
Sure.
So is there like some forums, some emails, some blogs, some books that you would recommend to our audience in furthering their customer success journey?
Yes. So here's what I do is I use Twitter almost solely for that, for keeping up with what people are doing.
You're such a developer.
Yeah, sorry. I think to the non-technical person, I think LinkedIn is super helpful. There's a lot of groups there that you can join, and there's a pretty steady stream of content that's always good to kind of keep you thinking. What I did, like, I didn't think that was enough, and so I started getting involved in the community, and that has been, like, San Francisco is such a great place to learn something, because it's acceptable to not know what you're talking about and just go and ask questions. And I got involved in the meetup for solely selfish reasons of, like, how do I do this new title that I just accepted? And so getting involved there and talking to people and asking for help is you know, not the most novel approach, but it is, you know, it's maybe not natural to some people to know to ask for help, but asking for help has been pretty beneficial to me. And then like I do a newsletter that is kind of like my own blog posts and other people that I think are smart. And
what's the name? Astrocolossal.com? No.
Yeah, at my website you can sign up for it, and it's not so much to push that, but it's a good way for me to kind of make myself read and digest and think about this stuff and kind of synthesize it. So
yeah, when you write your own content, then it forces you to think to think about it. So
even if
in a more structured way, so it's very helpful to.
Even if you're going to paraphrase it, like, I invariably find that, like, I go in a different direction anyway. So yeah, I think that's what I do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I have a last question. Did you start a meetup group, customer success meetup group in Tokyo?
Yes, it started.
You did?
Yeah.
How successful are meetups? Do they know meetup.com in Tokyo?
Meetups in Tokyo are mainly seem to be about practicing your English on unsuspecting foreigners like me. But We just started it. There's about 25 members compared to like the San Francisco meetup, which has like 2,000. But yeah, we're getting ready for our first meetup, so I'm pretty excited about that.
But you helped grow the community there in San Francisco, so maybe hopefully you have the same success in Tokyo.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you so much, Scott, for coming today to our office in San Francisco. And it was live in San Francisco, Hot Topics in Customer Success. Bye-bye.